So, what on earth is this monstrosity?
Illumineers, how you doing today? Listen to the show and learn to play. Whether you are new or you're a pro, I'm sure we have something to show. Amber, green, red, and steel, then purple, blue, complete our wheel. Listen and you'll learn some new strats to help you win some championship mats. So what ink color are you gonna choose? Inkable or uninkable? It is up to you.
So welcome to episode 3 of the Uninkable Dads podcast. We're in the final straight, the rundown, the countdown, the last few days before set 7 releases. So today you're going to find out what our favourite enchanteds are. We've got some day 1 deck lists for you to take a look at. And of course, the result of our flavour text game. Did you guess it? Have you put your guess in? If not, comment below, get your guess in there. Tell us which card you think Michael was talking about on the last episode, and we've got lots more content as well, so let's jump right into it. So I'll pass straight over to you, FPS Madness. What was that card that we were looking for the flavor text for?
Yeah, so we'll go straight in with the flavor text, and talking about flavor text, we are going to rename this. So on the last episode, we were calling this the tagline game. I've since learned that the text of the bottom card isn't called the tagline, it's called the flavor text. So therefore, we are renaming the game. Why not? So if you hadn't guessed, from last week, we did have a comment. Unfortunately, they weren't right. They did say they believed it was Beast or Yzma, I believe. But for this week, we were talking about the Lovable Pete, which obviously the tagline at the bottom was, it ain't cheating if you're the one making the rules. So we'll be bringing you another one at the end of the episode. What we've decided to do, so these are the 3 different types of flavor text. So I've got one of each here as a description for you. So we've got the book. So if it has a book symbol on it, it is from the film or book itself. It's from like the franchise. If it is what looks like a musical note, it's part of a song. So these will be lyrics from the song itself. And if it's got this like pen looking thing, if you can imagine, this looks a little bit like a fountain pen. It's basically not made up, but it's been put on the card by the Lacana devs. So they're the 3 different types you're going to see on the bottom of the cards, and that is where you would find them. I will give you a hint for the one at the end. It is going to be a book. So we will be talking about a book flavor text at the end. So moving on from there, we've had some listener questions. If you want to ask us any questions, please, feel free to comment below on YouTube or Spotify, or we do have our email address as well if you do want to email us in. And we actually had a question which I think we could both cover, but I think you've got slightly more experience. I'm only a couple of weeks into this. So the question was, what's the best place to start when teaching young kids to play? Now, I've only really sort of been teaching Millie for a few weeks now, so you've obviously got like a year's experience on me on teaching young kids how to play the corner. So would you like to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started with a couple of starter decks, and we started fairly early into Lorcana. The game was more simple then because there were less mechanics, and so Lily's had the benefit kind of building those mechanics up over time. But I think that's kind of shown me that that's probably a really good way to go with kids, because there's a lot in the game. They can get overwhelmed a little bit if you're talking about, the cards need to quest, they need to challenge, you've got locations, you've got songs, you've got different ways of gaining lore. That can be quite a lot for a little one. Generally, they just want to get these cards on board that they love playing with, and they want to see if they can get to 20 lore before their opponent. So that's where sort of Lily started with a really sort of fast, hyper aggro deck. Sometimes she could win a game just because she had these low cost cards in hand that quested for an absolute bunch and her opponent could do nothing. She loved it, thought it was absolutely brilliant. She wins a game, she creates these board states with all these cards all over the table, and opponents just sitting there kind of ahead of their hands, unable to do anything. And then other times the strategy just folds completely and, you lose the game. But she wasn't too bothered when those things happen. So, and the advantage of that is those games are normally fairly quick as well, because that's often another challenge with youngsters is, it's quite a lot of concentration. If you're playing at your
especially for
locals, you're playing
nearly an
sort
hour,
of 3 rounds. Yeah, 3 rounds of 50 minutes. That's quite a lot. So, Lily's games tended to be over in 10, 15 minutes, and then she gets a break in between. So I think, building that up. So, we went from there to then moving to a deck that did a bit more challenging, introducing a couple of songs into that, but nothing crazy. And then, she moved on to sort of the deck that she'd been playing, the purple sort of still deck where, she's had a location in at a time. She's got more songs. Yeah, there's a little bit. You've got your Calhoun, who it's like you don't just quest with that card. It sits around sometimes and needs to wait for the right opportunity. So I think just building them along, but making sure that the most important thing is they have fun, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes Lily wants to put cards into the deck, and I cringe and wince because I'm like, that doesn't go in that deck. But she's like, no, I want that card. I love that card. So, yeah.
So would you say that the gateway is a good way of doing it then? Because that basically is how the Lacana Gateway works, right? It's you get a playmat, you get like a set of cards that introduce you to the very basics of the game. The ready, set, draw, your ink, you're playing a card on turn, and it teaches you to play on curve. And then you get like a little... Have you actually played the Gateway?
So I've seen the Gateway, and I know what's in it, and I know how it works. I haven't actually had the opportunity to sit down and play it, but yeah.
I thought it's quite clever because you get like almost like challenges. So you'll get like a challenge of like, in this, before you can move on to the next pack and learn your new aspect of the game, you must quest with 3 different characters. You must challenge with 2 characters. It gives you your objectives to complete, and then once you've completed those objectives, you can move on to the next pack, and that'll introduce locations or items or whatever, and and you slowly work your way through until you have a full understanding of how the game works. And that's basically what Lil's done, but through playing it through sets instead, which is the better way to learn if you can. But it's like anything, because when we have new people come down to the store who haven't played before, it's like there's a lot to tell them. It's like, as much as it seems very simple, go to Smith's. It's currently on offer. Buy the £10 Gateway. You may find it a little bit boring to begin with if you've played TCGs before, but if not, it's a really good way to go from literally the very basics all the way up to being able to play, a full working deck sort of thing. So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you can
pick that up for a tenner, you've got an absolute bargain.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, because as well, you walk away from it at the end with sort of two functional decks, right? They're not the best, but you've got cards in there that you can then use in your decks as you go forward. So I think that's a brilliant way for new starters to get into.
I think there's
game.
actually some decent cards in there as well. There's a couple of like Madam and snakes and foxes and stuff like that. And there's actually some half decent like cards that you would then take forward into a deck 6 months down the line. So yeah, I think that's definitely a good one doing it.
The other product that's I think that's absolutely the best one for beginners, but then another product that's really good for kids and for families is the Illumineers Quest.
Mm-hmm.
So Ursula's Deep Trouble kit. So that's effectively a game where 2 of you can play against Ursula. So it's a co-op game. So sometimes for kids that's a little bit more fun. It's that they're not competing. It's not win or lose. You're teaming up together, which means you can walk them through their plays a little bit more as well, and talk about the plays together and what you would do against Ursula. And somebody, if they another member of the family wants to play Ursula, they can just turn Ursula's cards over for them. I think that's another good way of introducing the game to people.
Yeah, definitely. Again, it's another way of, looking through cards, what they do, different aspects, and, in the situation of what to ink here, you're going to come across that in Ursula's as much as you are in the everyday sort of game sort of thing. So, yeah, no, and both really good ways of learning, and they're not necessarily more fun, but they're another way of doing it that you're not just sitting down looking at cards going, this does this, this does this. It's more of an activity to do that sort of gets everyone involved instead of just sitting there trying to work out what a deck does, sort of thing. But yeah, no, definitely.
And what have you found with Millie? What's been her things that she most wants to do, or the things that she's maybe struggled with getting her head around?
I'm slowly introducing things. So as much as the deck wasn't competitive to begin with, it was very much things that went on the board and turned sideways. That was pretty much it. I introduced her to a few songs, but she never uses them as songs, so she'll pretty much never sing them. So most of them were actions rather than songs. So I built her an Amber Steel deck, which basically played the characters out and quest with them. There's a couple in there that challenge, but pretty much quest with everything. And your songs do your damage to take other things out. So she had like 2 grab sword to Zeus, strength, that sort of thing, to sort of teach her that how, songs can remove threats from the board, but challenges can also do so. And then recently we've gone down the road of trying to do support and shift. So she's now got the Queen in her deck, which gives her the shift ability on turn 2, but also the strength manipulation with, the -4/+4, to try and teach her more about when she should challenge and when she shouldn't. If you can knock something down by 4 and give your Daisy +4, your Daisy then hits for 5. It's always going to do more damage, therefore it's going to be a more beneficial trade. So yeah, she's getting there. We've introduced that. I think she's also got the Vanellope in there, so that's another shift line, again, just to try and introduce shift and get sort of shift into her deck for her.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, I think just keeping it fun. If kids are enjoying it, they'll stick with it, and the more they stick with it, the more they'll get it. Lily for a long time was just wanting to play. As I say, wasn't that worried how competitive she was. And then actually one evening recently, we're at our locals, and I actually paired into her in round 2, and she sort of said to me, do we have to play this as a league game, or can you coach me? So we just played it sort of open-handed. So for anyone that doesn't know what that is, we put our cards out so that we could see each other's cards, which meant I could sort of talk her through some plays and say, well, look, if I've got that in my hand, you've got to think about what you're doing with your characters, because I might play that next and things. So if you let them come through at their own pace, when they're ready, they'll say, actually, I want to learn a bit more.
Yeah, it's like anything. It will, it will take a little bit of time, but then when it clicks, it will. And I think I've seen a big increase with Millie over the last couple of weeks, where if she starts winning games, she gets more excited about it, and then then she has the chance of she'll be like, oh no, I want to do this and I want to change that. And it's like, I remember she played a game against Lily and she was like, why is that not in my deck? And it's like, because it's a different color. Can I play that color? Yeah, we can look at changing new colors. It's fine, So the more and more she plays, the more and more she's finding out these new things and therefore wanting to play more. So no, it's good. And like I say, I think the Gateway and Ursula's is definitely a good way of doing it, because you take away the you're playing against each other element of it, and bringing in it's a team game, we work together, learn the cards, and then we'll go off and play against each other. Okay, so then the other listener question we got was, if you could change one card ability, what would it be? Now, I don't know about you, but this took me the whole of about 0.2 of a second to work out what I wanted. And there's not going to be any surprise to anyone who knows me. But mine was this one. And I'm pretty sure you can guess what the ability would be to kind of just go back to this version of
Unnerf it. So for anyone
bring back Bucky.
Bring back Bucky. So for anyone that's listening on Spotify, we've got the 3-cost 1/1 Bucky Squirrel Squeak Tutor, which was the nerfed version of Bucky, who terrified all of us except for FPS Madness, because he was playing it.
I enjoyed Bucky. Give it a few months where they'll be saying that Sisu's just as bad as Bucky, but yeah, the original one, Bucky was that had ward, and it was whenever you play a Floodborn character, so it didn't need to shift for the ability to trigger. which got very broken in set 4. I'll admit it was broken, but it was fun. It was fun broken.
It wasn't fun when you're playing against it. I've still
Nah,
got
still got
still have
PTSD.
nightmares about playing against playing against 2 Buckies. That was just horrible.
Yeah, well, before we give you too much shock and trauma, we'll move across to your one. So, and your one was quite surprising to me. So, I mean, this is a set 1 card. So we're looking here at Maui, Hero to All, which, you know, I'm sure a lot of players, new and old, will know that this is a very powerful card. It's a 5-cost inkable 6/5, which has Rush, which means they can challenge the turn they're played, and Reckless, which means they have to challenge if able. You can sing with this instead, which then I think leads on to exactly what you wanted to do with this card.
Yeah, so I'm just going to take off his rush ability, which might be a surprise to some people, and give him Singer 7.
I wonder
yeah.
what song you wanted to sing with that then.
I wonder what. The ability to sing that Be Prepared a turn early. I think, you know, he's still an imposing body that you would drop even if he doesn't have Rush, potentially. Probably only really Steel that you'd be particularly concerned about dropping it, about Zeus, but I think you could still drop him on the board at times without the Rush, and then, yeah, the ability to sing, Be Prepared, next turn, clear the board, and then still have your ink available to reload your side of the board.
Yeah, see, now I feel like if any card should be able to sing Be Prepared early, it needs to be a Scar, right? Like, surely.
That's
You know, and give us a 4-cost. 4-cost would be alright. 4-cost Singer 7, because you play it on 4. You can't use it till turn 5 anyway. So, you know, you're Be Prepping on 5, but it's a Scar. You got to have Scar sing it.
yeah, we got the Scar from the set champs, I guess,
This
as
is
well,
true.
because
This
he's
is
a
true.
4, right?
Yeah. See, give him Singer 7. You could sing Be Prep. Not that I want that at all, in any way, shape, or form. I don't like Be Prep on turn 7, talk about turn 5. But thank you very much for the questions. If you do have any, please, you know, drop us a comment or an email, and we'll get around to them on the next episode. So, going from there, we had a little bit of news this week. So, we've actually had the deck lists for the starter decks. Now, have you had much look into these?
I've had a quick look. I haven't gone through them in depth, but yeah, have you had a chance to go in depth into these, or?
Somewhat. I started looking at it, and then, to be honest with you, I kind of decided there was only a couple of cards out of this that you'd potentially want as a competitive player, as such.
Mm-hmm.
As a new player, 100%, I think they are worth it. You know, if you're not going to be picking up boxes of booster packs to open, this is a very good way to give you some decent cards very quickly. You know, you do get the super Jafar in here, which I think is going to be in foil, and the Igo, which would also be in foil. The one in here that for me that is nice if you're going to pick up early would be the Giant Cobra. I think this card is going to be very good no matter what. You know, you can tell this is locked into Amethyst Steel for a reason, because this card's just going to be good outright. Yeah. So I think
there's some interesting cards in here, to be honest. There's a few, the Panic and the Fazu are maybe fringe cards that I actually think of, you know, in the right deck could really be quite powerful. And I like the colour combinations, colour I've been playing, but actually Purple Steel is a colour combination that for a new player, there are some really good cards in this colour combination which you can pick up on a budget. So I think this is a deck that you could pick up and quite quickly turn it into something that you could, you know, happily play at your locals without having to spend a great deal of money.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Also, they are designed there. Actually, talking about this, I don't think they're actually called starter decks anymore. I believe they're now called single player decks. Now, my guess to that is because with the Vanish, the return to hand elements, And the other combinations that are within this, I wouldn't really call it a starter deck. There's a lot you're going to need to learn to be able to use these cards effectively. So I think that's why they're moving away from the words of starter deck, because they're not something you pick up as a starter necessarily. You can, if you're familiar with TCGs, by all means. The other card I've just noticed in here is obviously the Steel Dart, which I think is going to go into most steel decks. You give some Challenger +2 and he's a 3/2 that quests for 2. So he's a good static card anyway. But there are some cards in here, like say with the Vanish and the Return to Hand, that wouldn't necessarily say this is a brand new player starter friendly necessarily. You can. It's just going to take you a little bit longer to learn it. So I think that's why they've moved away. I've actually called this starter deck in here, but I don't think they're actually called starter deck anymore. I think it's actually single player. So be interesting to see if that's their reasoning for it, or whether they just decided to move away from that. Because there was a lot of people saying that it might have been because people were picking up expecting there to be 2 decks in here, because I think Magic is.
Yeah.
I think if you pick up a starter deck in Magic, you got 2 decks. So the idea is you can play a game, whereas this is a single player one, and then the other single player one. So, but what do you reckon on the Ruby Sapphire one?
This is a really spicy little deck, I think, actually. It's got some really interesting cards in it with some interesting mechanics. Again, it's got some cards that I think people are going to be looking for early on. I think that Bell is going to be a sought after card at the 3 cost. It's got the Bell and the Beast dual links as well, which combo together. So yeah, I think this looks an interesting deck.
Yeah, again, 100%. This is definitely one of those ones, if you're not picking up loads of packs at the start, you don't have the money to buy booster boxes and stuff, this starter deck is going to be a good option for you, because I think they're about £17-ish, I believe. Obviously, some stores do have a discount on them all straight away, so if you can pick this up for around that price, you get a pack in the starter deck as well. So you're going to get everything that you see here plus a pack to open. But you're going to get the Bell, which is going to be pretty much good in any Sapphire deck. There's so many 7 deck lists floating around at the minute where everyone's just running Popsicle and Bell, just because this on turn 1 is crazy, absolutely crazy. And then obviously, I believe the Beast and Bell will be in foil as well. So yeah, I think it's quite a nice little deck, to be honest with you. And like I said, the Bell into unconventional tool will be could be quite powerful if there's if you can combo with the right 2-cost item, it could make quite a bit of difference. So yeah, I think they're all right. I think what we'll do is in the next episode we'll bring you what we would change to these potentially. So maybe not necessarily change like as if we could reproduce them and put them out there to you guys, but what cards we would put into these to turn them from being an okay deck to quite powerful and quite strong in your local stores. But I think you could probably do that quite cheaply as a starter. You could probably pick up, if you had the set 5 or 6 cards, throw them in here, and you could make a big difference to this deck, I think.
It is up to you.
We've actually got our set 1 day 1, set 1, not set 1, that's a long time ago, set 7 day 1 decks. So what on earth is this monstrosity?
So we've got to start with the top decks, obviously. But yeah, look, if you want to play something that's a lot of fun at your locals, I know people have talked about Puppies deck before. If you wanted to play 101 card deck, you could play your 101 Dalmatians if you could actually manage to shuffle it. But in set 7, we've got a few extra cards that add to the Puppies theme. So what I've put together here is what I'm calling Monster Puppies. So it's a Puppies deck that has a few of the new cards in. Basically, the idea is we're using Canine Crunchies, which is a 1-cost item which gives all of your puppies +1 willpower. We're also using Rapunzel's Tower, so we're going to send the puppies into the tower. They get +3 willpower while they're there, hence Monster Puppies. So we're gonna flood the board with our friendly, furry little puppies, and then we're going to boost them up so that they are very difficult for our opponents to take care of. It's Monster Puppies and Friends. We've got a few extra ones in here. I've tried to stick to the Puppies theme, so Stitch, new dog. He's a dog. And we got Pluto in there, the 1-drop that helps you effectively ramp. You can tap him, pay 1 less for the next character that you play. Stitch can be shifted into Stitch Rockstar, which then allows us to flood the board by every 1 or 2 drop character that we put out, and we've got a lot of those in this deck. We can tap to draw a card. And then you've got Thunderbolt, who has Puppy Shift, which is a very specific shift ability. So he is a 5-cost, 3/7 Amber Sapphire card that quests for 2 with Bodyguard. So he's a big boy, but he can shift in on 3, shifting onto any puppy character. So he's going to come in and he's going to protect the little. He's going to protect the little puppies around him.
Because that counts for these 2 as well, doesn't it? Because the puppy in the tagline, right?
Anything that has puppy, yep, absolutely. So that is the majority of this deck. So yeah, that's what it's doing. We got just to add a little bit of spice. We got Piglet in there and a Daisy Duck, and a Donald Duck, because they're all nice, aggressive characters. They're all friends of the puppies. So yeah, if you want to play a puppies deck,
yeah, I mean, I'll give you a choose. I first look at this, I was like, what on earth is this? And then the more I looked at it, I thought, if you hit the right cards at the right time, this is actually pretty good. You got to hit the right cards at the right time. But so what we'll have to do at some point is you'll have to build this deck, and I'll build my one, and we'll have to see who got the better day 1 deck. We'll have to have a game. We'll get a recording.
We'll have a go.
Yeah. So talking about mine, this isn't mine. This is your one. Mine's after this.
Okay.
So I'm guessing this is your standard deck, is it?
This is probably the deck I'm taking to League rather than the Monster. Although I might bring the Monster. That was a lot of fun. So no, this is really taking my Purple Steel deck that I've played a bit of, or Lily's been playing a lot of, and I've nicked it on a few occasions, and just saying what would I do with it given set 7. So yeah, we've put in there the new Panic. So it's 4-drop Amethyst card, Panic High Strung Imp. He's a 2/3 quest for 2, but he's all about his ability. When you play this character, you may move up to 2 damage counters from chosen character to chosen opposing character. And we had a discussion on this card, and I said I thought it was rubbish. So I have to backtrack on that a little bit because I put it in the deck. Yeah, I still think you avoid leaving damage up, but I just thought there probably are enough times where you would maybe have something like Lawrence or Madam Min Fox on the board from turn 3. You can play Panic and then swing them into something, and then move 2 damage across as well.
I mean, talking about if you want a broken combo for this, right? So you've got the card here, Fire the Cannons. So you deal 2 damage to a chosen character. Sometimes characters will end up with resist. So you could actually use Fire the Cannons on, say, a goat. You could then play Panic and remove the 2 damage from the goat onto something like Calhoun, and the resist wouldn't work. So therefore you'd actually take the resist out. So you then turn your Panic Fire the Cannons combo into a Calhoun killer.
Cool. So there you go. There's a next level play.
Yeah.
For you.
Also, I mean, Smee damages himself as well, so you've also got the high possibility of being able to remove that. So...
Yeah, and the other card that we've added here was the Bagheera. So I've taken out the Pluto that was in as a 4-drop bodyguard, and I put the Bagheera in. I think this works because the line that I played the most with this was to actually drop Gantu on 5 and then drop Pluto on 6 so that he's protecting Gantu when Gantu quests. So for me, that works with dropping Bagheera on 6 in bodyguard to protect Gantu, but also then gets the advantage that if Bagheera is banished, then he deals 2 damage to each opposing character.
I think Bagheera is going to be a good card anyway, in general. I think it's one of those ones a lot of people have gone, it's okay, but I mean, it's 4 strength, before we had the coil. That was really good. But now it's, it still dies to Brawl and CC, unfortunately, if they've got the right cards out. But 4-3 is a pretty decent stat line. I mean, it's the same stat line as Gan 2. I've gone for this, which is going to have the Milan shift. So you got the turn 1, the turn 6, or turn 7 Milan in here. Both of these are shift 5, so both of these would come down on turn 5 if needed. One of them obviously gives you +3 strength when it's shifted, and whenever you basically challenge a character, you then get to deal the same amount of damage to 2 other characters. So if you play it in on turn 5, you gain 3, that goes up to 5, so you could basically do 5 damage to 3 separate characters. The other Milan is the one that basically allows you once, as long as you've challenged once within the turn, the rest of your characters can challenge ready characters. We've then got one last hope to help this, so that way if they've got no cards exerted whatsoever, you can play one last hope onto something like a Maui hero, which is, he does have the hero tag, so then he could go into a ready character, which then triggers Milan, so anything else can go into a ready character. You've also got things like Mushu, which whenever you challenge, I believe it's banish. Yes, whenever one of your characters banishes another one, you gain 2 lore, so that you got the potential of Calhoun getting 4 every time she banishes and challenges. Same with Robin Hood. Being able to take something out, gain 2 lore, and return an action could be very powerful with Maui. And then the actions we've gone with is some resist to try and help the characters that are challenging survive a little bit longer, and draw a card to help you find the cards you need. Well, let's hope to start off the challenging ready characters if you need to, or if you don't have Milan on board. Zeus, just because I feel like Zeus can be very impactful next set. I think there's a lot of cards out here now that are going to have that higher willpower that, you're going to need something a little bit more impactful than a Storm. So, and then I went with 2 Whole New World. I was going to do 4, but I decided 4 would be too much because you don't always want to be playing this. But with the Maui, there's a potential that you could, if you're not hitting the cards you need, you just wheel with Robin on turn 3 and then go again, and you can always bring it back later. And then Pirate's Life, because Pirate's Life and Maui just work so well together. So this is what I want to try at the start. You got the new Ratigan in here, which is basically Maui's ability of whenever this is exerted, you gain 1 lore when paying an action. So Pirate's Life, you'd get 3. If you got both of these down, you'd gain 4. So it could stack very quickly. So this is going to be much more of a play cards at the board. So you've got strong things to start the game. And then hopefully you can survive as long as you haven't been aggroed out by turn 5, 6. Then you'd be able to take control of the board. So I'm hoping it should work quite well. I won't know until I try it. But this is hopefully, as long as I can pull the cards. I mean, I'm pushing myself a little bit here because I've got to get 3 legendaries here, 4 rares, 3 supers, and 3 more legendaries. So I've been a little bit brave on what cards I'm aiming for, but I think I've got a good chance if I can get them.
Cool. This looks really interesting. It looks very imposing. You've got some really big characters here, and they've got some nice ability. For our listeners, just to who think that Michael's invented a new card, actually, it's Calhoun.
Calhoun, same thing. I call it Calhoun. I'm pretty sure I've seen the film and it's called Calhoun, right? Am I wrong? Am I going to have to rewatch this film?
It was called Calhoun when I watched it, but maybe it's changed.
Yeah, well, I'm going to continue to call it Calhoun. So posted it my FES here, and yeah.
Oh, and guess who was the best man at his and Calhoun's wedding?
Calhoun. So, yes, Calhoun.
Felix. Oh, and guess who was the best man at his and Calhoun's wedding?
Calhoun, not Callahan. I was wrong. Fair enough. So lean into that. So we've got one more deck to show you. All these decks will be in the description below. So if you want to check them out yourself, there will be a link to the Dreamborn website where you can go in, duplicate these decks, and make your own version of it. So lean up. I think we've got one left, which is Lily's deck. Now, I haven't actually got around to doing Millie's yet, mainly because I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do, but this looks nice, I've got to say.
Yeah, so Lily fancies going back to her roots. Amethyst Amber, hyper aggro. I actually tested this online a little bit last night with a mutual friend of ours, and actually it ran surprisingly well. So we've got lots of aggro in here, like Daisy Duck, Maleficent, both 1 cost questing for 2. Lilo quests for 2, and you can obviously recur her from the discard. Piglet, so 2 other characters on board, and Piglet then quests for 3, with some bodyguards in there in the lines of Simba, and then Donald Duck, which also gives the character an extra lore, and then some neat little sort of tricks in here, I guess, just to further protect your board in terms of Tiana, restaurant owner. So she's on the board, she's exerted. Your opponent has to pay 3 ink to be able to challenge for the turn. And then you've got the new Snow White, Fairest in the Land, which I think is a really interesting card. So 2 cost 2/2, quest for 2, and it can't be challenged. Very simple ability. This character can't be challenged. And that card was quite interesting against one of the decks that we were testing against last night, which was one of these newer decks that really cared about challenging. So getting that out obviously made things difficult. You've got Genie that's evasive, and you've got the Isabella Madrigal, who is evasive, and if she's the only character that quests on the turn, then she gets an extra 3, so she quests for 4. Now, one of the lines of play was I was able to put her down, and then the next turn drop the Donald Duck bodyguard, so he gives her an extra lore. She quests for 5, and she's evasive, so against the deck that's trying to challenge, that caused some real problems. And then you've got a couple of shift lines in here with your Simba shift into Simba Pride Protector, and the Queen shift, which really is probably the main way that this deck challenges on the draw. So on the play, it's going to be very, very strong just with its aggro. But obviously going second, you need something a little bit more than that. So the Queen is probably the main tool here, where you can get her out on 2 and then potentially get some low-cost characters out on the board on 3, quest with the Queen, take strength off of an opposing character, give it to something like a Diablo or Daisy Duck or whatever, and then be able to challenge their characters. Obviously, just get yourself in a position, then you can get ahead in the quest, and then you just go aggro again to try and close out the game.
Nice. So a couple of questions on this deck. So why one-off with Simba?
So it's a really simple answer as to why one-off, because I've only got one. So that would probably change. But this was me putting together a deck that didn't involve spending much money to get it going on day one. But yeah, you're probably right. It probably needs more than one Simba in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you'd change in ratio-wise to fit more in, but I was thinking surely you'd run at least 2, if not 3. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm not convinced by the song, to be honest, but there's a song in there and I can't even remember what it's called.
Draw a card, chosen character against bodyguard.
Yeah, it goes so much to give. So I just thought it was interesting. New song, the fact it draws a card, the fact that potentially if you got Tiana down and you give something else bodyguard, you just make it awkward for your opponent because they've got to pay to challenge. They can't just clear Tiana, they've got to clear something else first. But I'm not convinced. So maybe there's some slots there that could be Simba.
Yeah. The other one is one that I struggled with myself, actually, is how did you teach or go round teaching Lil on using the Return Lilo?
Yeah, so, I mean, Lily knows Lily knows how it works. How to play it is maybe a different thing, right? So I think that's something I've just got to work through with her. There is a temptation that you just bring it back every time, or that Lily just ignores it if she can see something that's got more lore pips on. Yeah. She sees the Pascal. The Pascal is always coming out because it's got the most lore pips of any character. But it is interesting. And if anyone watched even at the higher levels of gameplay, the Melbourne DLC, I did watch a game where the player playing Amber seemed to think that Lilo had to come back every single turn, and often brought Lilo back in some circumstances where it was clearly just going to die immediately.
That does take a lot of thought. You know, the fact you have to decide whether you're going to do it before you draw a card, for starters. So, you know, you might look at your hand and say, well, I don't have a high cost card in my hand. I've got say a queen. That's my only card in hand. And I've got 5 ink. So, yep, let's bring Lilo back. You then draw into, say, the other queen or a Simba, and all of a sudden you're 2 ink shorter than what you would have been. You know, but that is the one ability that obviously helps to balance her, is the fact that you have to decide whether you're going to play it before you draw for turn, and also it comes in exerted, right? So it has the opportunity for them to answer it on their next turn, but the fact it just keeps coming back and back and back is one of those ones of it can be very difficult to answer at the same time. I really like this. I like the style you've gone for. I think it could work very well. Let's say you're in testing, it seems to be, so I'm definitely intrigued. So, you know what'll happen though, we're going to build this for the kids and then work out that it's actually really good and want to play ourselves.
It is up to you.
Okay, so moving on from there, we're going to have a quick look. So, in Lacana, you have the very standard thing of a standard card. You might get a foil card, and then we've had enchanted. Now, I think this is the first set where we're actually going further than that and introducing more of the same card, which is a little bit strange, and we haven't had up to now. So, introduce you to, you know, our friend Hero Hamada. This is obviously the super rare standard card that you get in the game. There would then be a foil version of this card, so that's 2 versions of the same card. We then move into the non-enchanted set champs card, which again is the same card, it's just a different artwork. We then move on to the enchanted version of the set champs card. So yeah, there's those 3 together. If you include the foil, that's 4. So we've currently got 4 of the same card, all with different. Well, I say all with different artworks. These 2 do have the same artwork technically, don't they? They're pretty much the same artwork, but they're not the same card at all. You know. But just in case that wasn't enough hero for you, you also have the standard enchanted as well. So we have 5 versions of the same card.
Lorcana likes Hero Hamada.
Yeah. So somebody tells me this card should be really good. Right? They're giving you 5 different options for it. I mean, you can only play 4 in a deck, but technically you got 5 options. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, we did.
I think to me, what's most interesting. I mean, I love like Big Hero 6, so you know, and again, really cool artwork. So yeah, love to see the card. But it's interesting that they've chosen this character to be the one that they've majored on for this set so much. I mean, it's quite interesting. As not Arcasia, not one of your, you know, if you're going to print lots of versions of a card, not your sort of Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, you know, or a princess, you know, any of those.
I mean,
crazy
even picking
collectible cards
from this film, right?
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting choice, definitely. I do like it in a way because I love the artwork. The artwork's insane, but it's very strange in the fact of I don't think it's going to be a highly played card. It will work in a in a green blue deck, but the deck's got to be built around it for it, right? So
yeah, you want to build around this because you want lots of Floodborn characters in the deck to trigger its ability. And it's a strong ability, right? Because it's your Floodborn characters, not your other Floodborn characters, so it applies to Hero himself, right? So Hero shifts in, and he's got evasive and ward, and he's questing for 3. So it's an interesting card, as you say. I don't think it's a standard card that will just slot into any Emerald Sapphire deck, but it's certainly not a card that's never going to see play.
No, definitely. Especially when you look at, green itself has, you got morph, which is obviously the multi-shift. Anything can shift onto morph, which is obviously going to help this. You've also got the hero shift for this is pretty good. It's a free cost that when you shift onto it, you draw a card. So there's going to be a good shift target for it. And then the other things in blue that you could shift as well, you've got Cogsworth, Aurora, you've go down Clarabelle. There's so many good cards that having Evasive and Ward could be quite interesting. I think this is one that's definitely going to be worth looking at. There's going to be a lot of potential that Ward could be very powerful next set. This is one way of getting it. I don't know whether I like it, but it is one way of getting it. So,
and extra points if you can get all 4 versions of the card out on the table at your locals. You should just win. Your opponent should just concede.
I'm telling you now, anyone does it, I'll just concede.
Yeah.
Anyone manages to do the full evolution of hero, I'd be like, yep, it's yours. GG. But yeah, I think it's nice. Like I say, it's the art on the cards are amazing. I just found it a bit of a strange card to choose. So, but talking about cards, we have some info on the next promos for League. These ones here. Now, there's one card that sticks out more than the others here, but what do you reckon? You like these?
Well, yeah, I know the card you're talking about because you're definitely talking about Perdita for the Puppies deck, right?
For your monstrous puppies.
Yeah, we need 4 copies of that shiny promo. Yeah, no, I like all of these. I assume you're talking about the Snow White.
Yeah, I quite like they've moved away from the old logo for promos now, moved across to the same logo that's got from the DLC cards. So
yeah, that confused me a bit at first.
I originally thought these might be like DLCs. But...
yeah, that's what I was thinking. We suddenly got a whole bunch more competitive tournaments that are opening up, or a lot more prizing. But this is this kind of. So are they unifying the promo symbol? Then is that what you think they're doing? So there's one symbol.
There was a news article on their website today or yesterday, I believe, with a big app upgrade tomorrow. Tomorrow for anyone listening to this now, for us, will be Thursday, 27th February, which will include the update for set 7 and also include the new promo symbols and everything like that. I believe also they're bringing a new thing to the app for the lore counter, because there is a card now in the game that changes how much lore you need.
There is.
So 20 is no longer enough. So there's, I believe I don't know exactly how it works, so only from a picture that you basically click on it, say that Donald's in play, and select what player it's affecting, and then they then have to reach 25 instead of 20. But yeah, I like them. I collect all the League cards. I've been quite lucky. I've managed to get a full playset of set 1 all the way through to set 6, so I will be aiming to get a playset of these as well. Snow White may actually see play. The others maybe not quite so much, but they still look nice and shiny in the binder, don't they? So it's always good. And then to go with those, obviously we have the pins for this set, which they're moving across. No more logo.
Yeah, I like this. Well, I guess when you've got 6 colours and you've done 6 colours, where do you go? But no, this makes sense. So they're moving across to, I don't know, what do we call this? This is the symbol for the colour, right? So this is the symbol for the ink symbol for amber. So yeah,
I think this is a bad photo. I think this is meant to be lighter than it is. I think the shading here of the person taking the photo has meant this looks darker than it actually is. But you've also obviously now got the 2 ink symbols on, whereas the current pins only have 1 ink symbol at the top. So
yeah, which is cool. So if you haven't seen the pins as yet, we've got the new Bolt, which is the amber steel dual ink card on one of the pins, and then the Mad Hatter, which is an emerald ruby dual ink card. And for the lore counter, we've got the Dual Ink Bell. So
Yeah, I think it's very nice. I think it, adds a little bit to it, and it's nice for newer players as well to get the lore counters. Most of us have our set in our ways now. We have set ways that we track our lore, but they're always nice for if people want to collect them, or B, to new players. I always keep about 4 or 5 in my bag, and like whenever someone new comes down, I'll be like, "Well, I've got these. Would you like one?" Because I'm never going to use them. So it's one of those ones that are there. But yeah, I think these look quite nice. So talking about cards, have a quick look. We've got 2 to bring you. The enchanted now. So the favourite enchanted from set 7 for me is Ratkin. Now, it's a bit of an odd one. I know. It's not a princess. It's not Baymax that a lot of people probably... Not Baymax, sorry. Tumtile, which a lot of people are expecting. I want this one mainly because I think I can actually play it. I think I can actually put this in a deck and use it. So I'm like, this is the one I want to get because I can actually use it instead of it sitting in the binder. But yeah, I think it's got nice artwork on it, and it's actually a playable card. So that's the one I went for. So
very nice. So a bit of flexing at locals.
Yeah, I mean, whether I actually keep it or sell it is a whole other thing. But I'd like to keep it and play it, but we'll see. And I don't actually remember what your one was, so we have gone for.
Go on. The Mickey Mouse.
Of course.
So, tough choice actually, because I like all of the enchanted this time around. So, some really nice ones. But I mean, this is Mickey. The artwork's fantastic. I mean, it kind of looks like something out of a computer game, actually.
Yeah.
Debatable whether this sees any play, but again, this is another one. If you want the kudos points at your locals, stick this in your deck, find a way of making it work, get it to pop off, and bring something crazy out onto the field. But yeah, just for the fact it's Mickey Mouse, and the artwork, I really, really love. So yeah, it's a card that I tend to. We've not had many enchanteds. I think we've had a couple, but they tend to try and use them to fund buying other cards. But this would be one I would find quite hard to kind of part with, actually.
Yeah, no, I think this was also a slight sort of go back to our first episode, wasn't it, as well, where we were talking about Mickey, and you said, it's Mickey, this needs to be an enchanted, and you made it happen. So anyone who's not happy with it, blame Glenn. But yeah, no, that's all we have on that element for you today. So as always, we will be signing off with our flavor text game. So for the next one, we're actually going to be going back to the screen here. We are going to be going with a book. So out of the 3 different types you can have, this card will have the book symbol in the bottom. That will give you a little hint of who it is towards. It's not Raya, just heads up. So going there, our flavor text for this week is, she will never see me as anything but a monster. So a lot of people may get that very quickly, but I wanted to make it a little bit easier this week. So just one more time, that is, she'll never see me as anything but a monster. So drop us a comment below in YouTube or Spotify, and obviously feel free to use our email address and drop us in an email and let us know what you think. So you got any inkling there, or it's ringing bells, isn't
it? It does. I guess we want the exact card, right?
Yeah, that's the idea.
So the specific card. So yeah, I think I know.
Okay.
I know. So we shall see.
You'll have to wait and see, won't you? So, but yeah, thank you very much for watching and listening today, and we will see you in the next one.
See you next time.